here to talk to you about the brilliant World Event Young Artists Festival that I was lucky to be part of, that took place this September across Nottingham city centre, and consequently I became part of the largest family imaginable. I should briefly say that the festival was supported and funded by these organisations. UK Young Artists hosted the festival, and it was supported by Arts Council, Nottingham City Council, Legacy Trust, ERDF and Igniting Ambition. Oh. Hurrah. So, this is the festival, and it was for young artists aged 18 to 30 who, from across the world, who had an established artistic practice, and they would come together and present, exhibit and perform across all art forms, which was music, gastronomy, visual arts, performance, film, literature and applied arts. This is me. I am Laura May Brown, and I was the Marketing and Communications Manager for the festival. And what that meant was it was my job and responsibility to help shape the identity and the idea of the festival and present that to lots of different types of audiences and communities. So this is the strapline, and it was the overriding key message that lived through all of our communication. It's what we began with, and it was how we always started talking about the project. And even though it's an impressive sounding premise, even for us, we often underestimated the scale of the ambition of this project and had to re-understand it as we prepared for the festival. So 1,000 artists, that's probably 10 times the amount of people who are in this room, from possibly 99 more nations for 10 whole days. So the artists would all arrive, all of them would arrive on the Thursday. The festival would begin on a Friday and continue to the following Sunday. So when I first joined the festival, which was a little under a year before it began, there was just myself and the festival director, who you can see here, the Silke Pillinger from Germany. And at that point, we hadn't even been allocated an office. However, the team soon grew, and key positions became filled. So we had the community engagement and volunteering manager, the project assistants, the producers for live art, music, of which Parisa and Steve, who are in this room, were part of, and the literature, visual arts producer, and also the artist program producer. And these were all the key organising positions were in place, and it did feel like we were preparing for this ginormous wedding for a huge extended family. This is Erica and Maria, who joined us through the European Volunteering Scheme. And it was when they joined that we started to call ourselves the Weya family. And I think perhaps because Erica and Maria are quite young, and this was their first time away from home, and their whole focus was to help us with the festival, that we became keenly aware of the responsibility and the unconditional support that we needed to provide each other in order for the festival to succeed. So the core team was about to grow, and we would eventually have over 100 volunteers who would help us with some really important tasks, such as greeting all of the artists at the airport, making sure they get onto the right buses, acting as translators, because a lot of the artists didn't speak English, or English wasn't their first language, and also act as unofficial tour guides. We did behave like a family. As I mentioned, there was lots of unconditional support that we had to give each other to overcome lots of different challenges that lots of families faced. And it was really important to us that the visiting artists would all feel very welcome and supported from the outset. So outside of this core team, we already had an infrastructure that stretched across the city, and the festival would take place across 37 different venues and spaces. And I think it's significant to say that no other event or festival has ever involved such a large number of organisations and spaces. And as such, there were many different types of relationships with many different types of organisations. beginning with the major arts venues such as Nottingham Contemporary, the Playhouse, the Royal Concert Hall, the Castle and Lakeside Arts Centre, a new art exchange, and the various Nottingham Trent University buildings. The festival then began to include all the independent artist-led spaces and galleries such as 1 Thoresby Street, Switch, Backlit and Surface galleries. It also included lots of unusual places like churches, even the toilet, open spaces and a parkland. And also shops. Paul Smith hosted one of the artists in his flagship store in Willoughby House. And importantly, the Market Square became a gateway for the general public to engage with the festival. And there was a full programme of performance and activity that was programmed throughout the whole 10 days that happened in the Market Square. And it was so important for us as we were preparing for this that the local communities and the local creative community, which is really significant in Nottingham, were engaged and invested from the outset. We knew that if this huge affair were to ship in and ship out of Nottingham and not touch the sides, then it wouldn't be a success. And the venues, everybody reacted incredibly positive, and some of the venues curated exhibitions in direct response to the festival. Some of the venues cited work by local artists next to the international artists, and we actively encouraged all of the venues to start to communicate with the artists months before they arrived. So that's a bit of a mess down there, but that is the venues. We also, through our local community engagement programme and through these organisations at the top, we engaged with over 200 local people where they actively took part in creative projects that were programmed into the festival. So months before the festival, hundreds of people were already actively engaged in the project and very excited and full of anticipation for it. So in addition to the team and the venues and the local and community engagement project, we also had a team of ambassadors. Hatain Patel, who is a cross-art form performance artist, and Michael Pinchbeck, who is a performance artist and a playwright. Mark Gubb, who is an established artist and also an ex-Trent University lecturer. Nicola Monaghan, who is a local award-winning author. Siobhan Davis, who is an international Grand Dame of Dance. Akram Khan, and Paul Smith. And also, who isn't on this list, Giles Peterson was also an active supporter, and he musically curated one of the opening events. Hatain, Michael, Mark and Nicola were incredibly important spokespeople for the festival, and they laid the foundations and explained to all of their networks what the festival was about. Hatain and Michael in particular had experience of a similar type of festival that takes place in the Mediterranean, and they were able to act as sort of more experienced older siblings, and they provided advice for the forthcoming artists and were incredibly helpful. So outside of the ambassadors, we also had sponsors and funders. Capital One, Paragon Law, Johnny Wright's Hearts Hotel and Park Plaza Hotel and Restaurant, and they were all amazing. Each of these organisations, we didn't have a usual kind of sponsor-organisation relationship. They really understood the scale of the festival and the importance of bringing something like this to the city, and were incredibly enthusiastic. Capital One just wanted to be involved in everything, and the Capital One Choir took part in the festival and performed a couple of times in the Market Square and took part in one of the mass participation events. Paragon Law, who were a local immigration specialist firm, they guided us through the visa journey that was needed. We needed to apply for over 500 different types of visas to bring these artists to the UK, which was no mean feat, and they provided all of their time and were just thoroughly excited about the project. Johnny Wright, who are local print specialists, bent over backwards and were incredible. Hearts Hotel hosted a fundraising dinner for us, which was really instrumental, and Park Plaza provided us with accommodation and also hosted an artist in their quite grand foyer. And the relationship with these sponsors really helped us to overcome some practical challenges that we were facing in organising the festival. So that is all about our local community and network, and now more about our international partners. So this map here highlights all of the countries that the artist came from, and we worked with 86 international partners across the world to select artists, and this is how the relationship worked. These partners would actively select these artists from across all of the art forms that I mentioned, and then once they had been selected, we would step in, and they would also, where possible, provide transport funds for the artists. The festival then provided transport for shipping for all the artworks, transfers to and from the airports for all of the artists, their accommodation. The majority of the artists stayed in halls of residence at Nottingham Trent University. It was really important that we kept them together and within the middle of the geography of the festival as well, so nobody would get lost, hopefully. And we also would gather all of their technical requirements, images of them, images of their work, descriptions of their work, biographies of them. We provided all of their meals, more of which later, and a full programme of activity. Once the artists were selected, we started to communicate with them through social media, and we tried to engender a conversation before the festival began between the artists, the community members, and the venues and everyone who was hosting it. As one of the underriding festival ambitions was to engender intercultural dialogue across political borders. And what that means is that we wanted to facilitate a place for these artists to come together, talk, network, collaborate, make work, discuss, debate, talk about various issues, various political issues that they have of being young artists in different countries. But importantly, for them to take this network and these relationships with them as they moved on after the festival. So, eventually, after months of preparation, all the artists arrive safe and sound. The volunteers have managed to get all of the artists from the planes onto the right buses, and they arrive. And for many of the artists, because we'd been so busy in preparation, we'd organised interviews that had to take place through mobile phones as soon as they arrived. So a number of the artists had interviews with the BBC and with international press, because we'd worked hard to really lay a foundation for them as young professional people. So as soon as they hit the tarmac, they were part of the team. And I don't know if anybody here has ever been to a badly organised conference where you're left out in the cold. What we wanted for this whole project was the opposite of that, for these young artists to feel welcome and very much part of the family. And so the festival begins in the Artist Pavilion, which was a huge marquee, and that was where the artists came every day to eat. And we provided an English breakfast for them, which swiftly moved into lunch, which was fish and chips. And then we moved on to afternoon tea, and we opened the doors and we invited all of the venues, all of the community members, and everybody to come and meet the artists. The atmosphere and the excitement that was in that marquee was incredible. It was brilliant. All of these international, very excited people who were very happy to be there. And as with all families, and as we were saying before, food is the glue that keeps us all together, meal times were a crucial part of the day, because this was where all of the artists would be together during the day. At no other time would they all be together in the same place. So they would come to us for breakfast. We would allocate tickets for events that were specifically reserved for them. We would deal with any issues that they had. They would gossip, mingle. Quite often it would break out into singing and performance. And it became a really important nucleus for the whole of the festival. So they arrive, we have lunch, we have afternoon tea, everybody's really happy, and the festival is open. And so hundreds of images exist, and for the festival, hundreds of them. And so I have a selection here from a number of different photographers, David Seven included, who is one of the official Weya photographers, who did an amazing job. And what I hope that these images will convey is a sense of the colour and breadth and excitement and buzz that was the festival. The festival was hugely successful. Most of the events were oversubscribed, or we had to turn people away, and we really had to hang on to the artist spaces for events as well. The artists had an amazing time, as did we. It was, There we go. Sorry about that. That was the performance that happened in the toilets at the Royal Theatre. And some of these images, and as you can see, a good time was had by all. And some of these images have also been taken from social media. So we had worked hard to generate a conversation across social media, but it wasn't until the festival started that the posts on social media just went through the roof and have continued to do so, and has really become a place where the artists discuss things, they share what they're doing, they post videos and audio clips of their work. A lot of them have collaborated, and it really is a fantastic, buoyant space. I think there might even be one of the Capital One Choir in here in the Market Square. They're the singers from South Africa, and there's one of the church performances, one of the Market Square performances. There's the Capital One Choir in full flow, who were amazing. Okay, so one of the threads that I really liked that happened on Facebook was, where is your Weya bag now? And each of you should have a Weya bag around your beanbag or under your chair. And the Weya family has left a great legacy, which is continuing, and it's still open to everybody, yourselves included. And it would be great if you wanted to get involved and perhaps post about the travels of your Weya bag. And you would do that by visiting the website, posting on Twitter, and also getting involved in the conversation that happens in Facebook. Thank you very much.